Alright, Scott here. Today we're going to cover hammer and shooting star setups, which are a really cool setup. Foundational knowledge, you want to pay attention and you want to get this stuff good before we get to the masterclass. So anyway, Unit 1, have you noticed that trading on the hard right edge of the chart is confusing as fuck? And it really is. And one of the things that when I started to become a decent trader that I noticed is that technical analysis is pretty easy when you're just looking at a chart going, I think this is going to happen, I think that's going to happen. But when you have to do it on the hard right edge of the chart under real-time pressure with real skin in the game, it's drastically harder. And I think that's true for all of us. And you might have noticed as well, what I noticed was that I kept on getting better and better at technical analysis, but that didn't translate into more and more money. In fact, I still sucked. When I sucked, I was actually a really good technical analysis guy, but I still sucked. So do you know anyone like this who might be really good at charts but still loses money? I know plenty of guys like that. So if there's one thing I'd like you to take away from working with me, it's this. The more of your trading system that you put into rules, the less agitation, the less angst, the less confusion, the less fuckery all around you're going to experience in the markets. So everyone likes the freedom of doing whatever the hell they want in the markets. No one likes to be bound and boxed in by rules. I hate it. Everyone hates it. But you make more money when you do it. So if you were running a discretionary system, and I'm not going to be teaching you a discretionary system, I'm going to be teaching you an absolute black and white mechanical rule system. But even if you were running a discretionary system, most people will have drastically better results if they make the exit rules or position sizing or all kinds of things, as much as you possibly can, into algorithmic definitions. So this here is a hammer candle. And today we're going to learn an algorithmic definition that we can say definitively this is one and no, this one isn't one. So we might be able to say that this one over here isn't one and this one is and this is and this isn't, and we're going to give ourselves exact rules so that there's no confusion. And the more confusion we take out of this, the better we're going to be at it. So what this candle represents, it represents a failed attempt to drive the market down. So what it is sellers pushed the price all the way down and then buyers jumped in and pushed the price back up to where it was. Now, if the market isn't going to go down, doesn't want to go down, and then it starts going up in the next candle enough to break this high, that's a pretty good opportunity to buy because your sellers are all exhausted. That's the theory. Now, if you just measured hammers and shooting star candles across every time frame, every market, it wouldn't be an edge at all. Overall, this type of candle doesn't mean that much, but in certain situations, it's an extremely strong edge. And we're going to talk about a couple of different situations that we use this setup, and yeah, that's what I'm showing you today. So, in strongly trending situations, you can see there's a hammer candle here, another one here, another one here, another one here, another one here. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row winners. That's totally not at all unusual in the middle of a strong run. In fact, that's pretty typical behavior. So you would never enter on a hammer candle just because you see the candle. The best way to enter on these candles is to wait until the next bar breaks the high of them. So if you see this candle, wait until the next bar breaks the high. If you see this candle, wait until the next bar breaks the high. Now, the corollary of that is that when you do that, if say you're getting long right here, you have a great place to place a stop loss just below the low. So you can see if we got in at the long, at the break of the high here with a stop loss at the low, that stop loss is never threatened. If we get in the break of the high here with a stop loss at the low, this low is never threatened. This low is never threatened as the market goes up. So it's not just that this is some super strong edge or it predicts the future, which it doesn't. What it does is it gives you a really, really nice place to put a stop. Now, This is the daily chart of the S&P 500 just before the coronavirus crash. You can see the coronavirus crash on the hard right edge of the chart. So this was a very strong bull move, and let's look at what happened. Hammer candle winner, 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 hammer candle loser, loser, loser. So that looks to me like 9 out of 12 winners, or something like that. Pretty close. So this number, so 9 out of 12, that's 75% win rate. That's pretty typical of hammer candles in the middle of a strong uptrend. Now, remember what I just said is if you measured these overall, this is not an edge at all. This would be almost exactly 50-50. But in an uptrend, these things go from being not very exciting to very exciting indeed. And especially in a very specific type of trend called a decreasing volatility trend. And a decreasing volatility trend is something that we're going to cover in a lot of detail in the masterclass. It's complicated, but it's a very cool concept. And this is what's called a decreasing volatility trend. And you can just see, just typically paints winner after winner after winner. So let's learn the setup. So the hammer rules are two things. You need both of them. One is a lower wick equal to or greater than 2 times the real body. And we need to close in the upper half of the range. So let's look at some examples. So this one here, the candle can be either black or white real body. The real body is the difference between the open and the close. So here, this is the real body. Here, this is the real body. And you can see we've got a lower wick on it. And you don't even have to measure it because the lower wick is obviously more than twice this range. And you don't have to measure it because obviously it's closing in the upper half of the range. So this is definitely a hammer candle. This one here, we're definitely closing in the upper half of the range. We close right up here. And definitely this lower wick is equal to or greater than 2 by this little colored bit here. This one here, however, it's kind of the same shape, but kind of not. Like if we measured 2 times the real body, the difference from the open to the close, we don't have a lower wick that's long enough, not good enough. Here, we do have a hammer candle. Now, an interesting thing about hammer candles is that if they don't, at this point, the market should break to the upside. This looks like a very textbook bull flag with a hammer candle finishing it off. If the market cannot get high enough to break the high of this candle and instead breaks the low of this candle, the market is likely doing something completely opposite to what we think or what it should be doing. So after it fails to break up here and do what is probably, most people would say this is probably going to make a new leg up, once it breaks the low instead of going up, the fix is in and we have a very strong indication that this market does not want to go up. Because on a very strong buy setup, the market couldn't attract enough buyers. On the best buy setup that on a really nice looking buy setup can't attract enough buyers and instead broke the bar low, this market is probably going to go down. And you can see that it did go down and went down substantially. All right, let's keep going through. So just 2 elements. Element 1, upper wick equal to or greater than 2 times the real body. And number 2, a close in the upper half of the range. Now, a couple of things to note. It has to close in the upper half of the range. Exactly halfway, not good enough. And the lower wick must be equal to or greater than 2 times the real body. Equal to is okay. So those are really the only 2 things you need to know. Now let's move on to shooting star candles. Now a shooting star candle is the exact opposite, representing a failed attempt to drive the market up. So this is a shooting star candle here, and you can see that quite often the shooting star candle is a retest of itself. So this shooting star is the market trying to capture this high, failing, and then as we break the low, it becomes a strong sell signal. Also, shooting star candles quite often mark the upper boundary of range-bound markets, just as hammer candles often mark the lower boundary of range-bound markets. So this is a shooting star candle. This is a shooting star candle. The real body can be black or white, it can be a doji. You don't have to measure any of these, but if you get one that's kind of a bit borderline, you might want to pull out a calculator, go up here to this section, and measure the difference between the O and the C, the open and the close, and then measure the difference from the high to the highest out of the open and the close, and see if it fits our definition rules. So let's look at the shooting star rules again. The upper width equal to or greater than 2 times the real body, and the close in the lower half of the range. Exactly like this. Okay, so let's have another look. So you can see here the hammer candle and the hammer candle are perfectly good buy signals in a strong trend, and the shooting star followed by another shooting star marks the end of the trend, and this is quite a common formation. So let's get these rules sunk into our heads. Tomorrow I'll be teaching you another retest setup which uses this definition. So we're going to take this knowledge that we've learned today, we're going to build on it in a new setup, and I think we're getting all this foundational knowledge under control, and my idea is that for the actual masterclass I can concentrate on teaching the advanced stuff rather than just the basics. I think it'll work out much better for everyone, and I think everyone's going to be happy with that. So I'll see you tomorrow.